Everyone.
Good morning.
As you say, what a beautiful day it is, yes? And I welcome you, and I'm glad you're all here instead of all the other distractions you could have chosen on this day. So, with Valentine's Day being tomorrow, how could I possibly talk about something other than love? Right? Now, love is an interesting thing. Stay here. And I ask you right now, tune in. What does your heart look like? Is it something like this? Soft and squishy, beautiful colors. Boom, boom, boom. No, that heart is a young heart. It's still flexible, yes? And it's willing to be just loved. Or is your heart like this? See, that's also a beautiful heart, yes? But it's rigid. It doesn't bend. It's hard. So, what shape does your heart have? I invite you to think of that while I'm putting on my pink glasses here. It's funny because they don't have pink to look through, but I had to do this. So, see, the word love we sometimes think of it as a feeling, an emotion. But is it really? What if love is your birthright? What if love is your essence? What if you came as love into this world, and as love you will go out? And what if as love you are still present on the other side, on the spirit side? See, English language is a funny thing about love. That word bends itself into all kinds of different ways, a little bit like this heart, right? You can say to a loved one that you treasure and that you're deeply connected with, I love you. But we also love coffee, love skiing. You can pet a puppy and say, I love you, right? So, it really is, and you know this one, like how about if you're on the phone with somebody and they want to sort of get to the end of the conversation and they say, I love you, click, right? Then it's really more like, goodbye, get out of my way. So love in the English language is very vague. Let me tell you, as you can probably hear, I'm German. And in German language, we cannot say love in all these ways like in English. It is really reserved for romantic love. And since I've lived here now for over 30 years, I once told my mom when I visited her, Mom, I love you. And she looked at me, shocked. She didn't know what to do with that because the words I love you are not used in that family context. So language is an interesting thing. You know who was really precise about the different words or types of love were the Greeks. They came up with 8 different kinds of love. And I won't go into all of them, but let me tell you a little bit about the different kinds of love, and then we'll look also into how our chakras, our gateways, express love in different ways. So that's what I want to talk about today. See, the Greeks again, number 1, of course, is eros, right? That's where the word erotic comes from. So eros is sexual love. It is desire. It is wanting, and it usually has a very, very strong passion and sexual connotation. So eros is, of course, very necessary. It's programmed into us, right? Not not the least of which is our desire and need to procreate. So Eros serves an important function, but if love expresses only as Eros, then it's very one-dimensional, yes? It wants to have, it wants to conquer, it wants to possess. That's pure Eros. And of course, what do you think what chakra expresses Eros? Second, right? Sacral chakra. That's where we hold not only our sexual powers, but also creativity, yes? So that adds an interesting aspect to Eros, that we can be creative with it as well. Now there's another form, a very different form, and the Greeks called that philos, or philia. Philia is the love that has no sexual components, and it is often used in connection with friendship, but deep, deep friendship. The kind that would be willing to sacrifice self for the other. So it is said that, for example, sometimes soldiers on a battlefield feel philia. They would give their life for that very special comrade. And it's selfless, yes? That's philia or philos. Now, where do you think philia is expressed? Heart chakra, mostly, yes? And then we come to another type of love, and that is agape. Now you've all heard agape, right? There's a very well-known church in Orange County with that name. And that's not an accident. Agape is unconditional love. It is also, the Romans called that caritas. And from that word, charity evolved. So that is agape. It's the love of God, the love of Source. But it can also be the love of humanity, of all of humankind. It is selfless. It doesn't demand. It is what we call unconditional love. So it is given freely. It asks nothing in return. It is perhaps the purest form of love. But, what if, and by the way, that probably is most strongly expressed through our crown chakra, yes? When our crown chakra is open, then we can inhabit that love, we can receive it, and we can give it back. I challenge you, what if God, Source, Spirit, really experiences creation through our eyes? Isn't that a beautiful thought? So that when we experience love for all of creation, maybe we're giving something back to God. Just maybe. There are other forms, and I'll briefly touch on them. One of them is, again, the Greeks in their precision. They talked about ludus. Ludus is playful love. Yeah, let's dance all night, let's do a little flirtation. Playful love is ludus. And ludus is also often when people first fall in love with each other. And that by itself is an interesting word, right? Fall in love. It already indicates like, whoa, I'm out of balance here. What if we can actually rise in love? Or stand in love. I like that one. I stand in love. Then my feet are grounded. I'm on the earth. Yes, I'm not falling. But ludus is also the kind that when you first fall in love, it's like a drug. You feel like you're on a high. And the world is, again, painted in rosy colors. Yes? A different kind of love yet is pragma. Pragma, I guess the word pragmatic comes from it, or is related. Pragma is lasting love. So, when Eros, let's say a relationship, a healthy relationship, of course you want there to be Eros, right? That's the attraction, the initial. But then, after 20 or 30 years, let's say, of marriage, Eros isn't that important anymore. It's still there, hopefully, but it needs to go now hand in hand with other types of love. Philia, friendship. I remember on the announcement for my wedding, my husband put on the bottom of the card, "Love is friendship set on fire." I love that, because we were really good friends and lovers. And now, after so many years, Pragma has also come in. We know each other, we trust each other, we're committed. We are not looking to hike out anytime soon. So that's mature love, Pragma. Let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, there is one we all, I think, can relate to some extent, mania. I think the Greeks call it mania, but mania, So that's not healthy love, right? That is obsessive, and that also sometimes, by the way, is expressed in the second chakra, that doesn't respect the other, just wants to dominate, and sometimes addictive tendencies can also manifest. Yes. So we talked already a bit about how these types of love manifest in the chakras. But let me just go one more time over it. So first chakra, and we all know, by the way, right? Chakras are energetic gateways. Yes? Mm-hmm. They are not necessarily located in the physical body, but they correspond to the major glands in the physical body. And on the energy level, chakras allow for energy to come to us and is expressed outward again. So I'm sure that in some of the healing classes, you will go deeper into that. Suffice it to say, these chakras, these gateways, 7 major ones. So the first one is at the base of the spine, also called root chakra. How do you think love expresses through the root? What about if it's love for Mother Earth? Mm-hmm. Love for all of creation. When we're balanced in that chakra, then we're content, we're happy with life, we're appreciative, we feel safe and secure in life. Then we talked already about how love expresses in the second chakra. And if it's pure eros, then it's probably not healthy. We've come to understand that, yes? How about the solar plexus? That's the place where willpower is expressed, yes? So when that chakra is not flowing free, open enough and allowing energy to flow freely, then we can have control issues in our relationship. Yes? And maybe we don't trust each other. We always want to have it our ways. And when that chakra is nice and open, we can really respect each other as equals. We don't try to override the other. There's a healthy consideration for the partner. Of course, the heart chakra. See, sometimes we think only the heart knows about love. Not true. Of course, the heart owns all these facets of love, but maybe most strongly we can experience philia. Sometimes we get glances of agape that also we feel in our heart. I remember one time I was new to spiritual development, and I came home and heard that a neighbor had fallen seriously ill. And in that moment, a strange love came over me, a feeling of like I started to cry, but it was not pity or not even compassion. I felt such a pure love for my neighbor and this very moment. And it was just like a wave of energy flowing through me. It really felt like a moment of grace. There were no strings attached. And so sometimes we experience this kind of love. Coming to the throat. What is the throat chakra all about?
Expression.
Can't hear you.
Talking.
Expression, communication, exactly. So, when that chakra is open to love, we can offer words of appreciation. Yes, we can also be good listeners. Because what is intimacy? Intimacy is sharing from the heart, being willing to become vulnerable with each other. That's intimacy. Sometimes intimacy is misunderstood as eros, but really intimacy in its best way is sharing from the heart. Finally, we come, not finally yet, but when we come to the third eye, that of course is our sense of vision. And vision here on multiple levels. We can, like today, just celebrate the beauty of a day like this. We can hear bird song. Yeah, they're already out there. It's too early, but they don't know that. And we can just express our appreciation. And of course, it's also inner vision. So when we express love through the third eye, then we can also celebrate ourselves as part of creation, of the divine. And that leads us to the crown chakra, where, as we said earlier, we're open to divine love, agape, and we're allowing ourselves to feel that unconditional sense of love for all of humanity and for Source. So when that chakra, by the way, when that's blocked, then that's where depression can settle in, because we feel disconnected from Source. That's one of the saddest illusions we can harbor, that we're all alone in the world and that there's nothing there for us. That is, open your crown chakra more and more so you can really allow that sense of connection to all of humanity and to the divine, whether you call it, that's funny too. I often in my prayer say, Father, Mother, God, beloved friend. That comes from Paramahansa Yogananda, by the way, from Self-Realization Fellowship. And that sort of encompasses some forms of love. Oh, reminds me, Storge is yet another form of love. Storge is the love between parents and children. So that's when I say, Father, Mother, God, I feel very safe with God. And I'm also not limiting God to just a male expression, right? Because God is much bigger than just the patriarch on the throne, right? So that is Storge and familiar love, and then we have friendship. There are these books, Neil Donald Walsh, right? He wrote about friendship with God. Mm-hmm. And at that time when that first was published, it was sort of a novelty. You mean I can just chat with God, like one-on-one as equals? Whoa, people who have been really programmed, let's say, by church would not allow that's possible. And by church here, I mean religion in the sense of dogma. I think maybe we have a couple of recovering Catholics in here. So much more to share, but you know what? I want to offer a few lovely quotes to you, because of course nothing has been written about, sung about, made movies about more than love. I think it's the primal core essence. And physicists sometimes wonder, well, what is really the ultimate glue that holds the universe together? Of course, as spiritualists, we know it's love. Why can't you acknowledge that, scientists? Well, it's not measurable so much. However, actually, to some extent, it is measurable. There is a cool place called Institute of Heart Math, and they actually are able to measure different frequencies. You know, when we feel really happy with life and all of ourselves, then that is a high frequency. And so it can be measured. And talking about happy with ourselves, I almost forgot a very, very important type of love. And that is, the Greeks call it philautia, but let's just call it self-love. Now, why do you think self-love is important? Can we really love someone else when we don't love ourselves? You know, sometimes it's been misinterpreted, and maybe some of us grew up with a sense of, oh, that's selfish, that's egotistic, don't do that. And then we throw out the baby with the bathwater, don't we? Because healthy self-love is a prerequisite for loving another fully. Makes sense, yes? All right. So let me tell you a little bit what wise men have said. I love Rumi. You know Rumi? That's an ancient poet, and you know his poetry is like it could have been created yesterday. It is so contemporary and eternal. So Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Isn't that a total reversal of what we sometimes have been taught? Remove the barriers you have created against love. Or how about this one? Let the beauty of what you love be what you do. There are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the earth. You know what love is? It is all kindness, generosity. Disharmony prevails when you confuse lust with love, while the distance between the two is endless. I guess he's talking about eros here, right? So often, especially in the early stages of infatuation, we think that we feel love, but it really is just, I want you, I need you. It's pure eros, right? So he says the distance between lust and love is endless. Now, hopefully, lust can develop into love when it's nurtured, yes? And one more, I love this one. You suppose you are the trouble, but you are the cure. You suppose that you are the lock on the door, but you are the key that opens it. It's too bad that you want to be someone else. You don't see your own face, your own beauty, yet no face is more beautiful than yours. Philautia, self-love. He doesn't call it that, but can you see how Rumi points out the different kinds? And of course there are so many beautiful poems, but I always like to bring a little lightness into it. See, I'm German and I'm very intense and sometimes too serious, so I looked up some healthy jokes about love. All right, so one is a tiny little bit on the border, but it's okay. So, a woman walks through an old folks' home, and she lifts her skirts and says, super sex, super sex. And she walks around, and an old guy, he said, huh, I can't hear you. Super sex, super sex. And he thinks for a minute, and he says, nah, I'll take the soup. happens when you fall in love with a chef? You get all buttered up. Why you should not fall in love with a pastry chef? He may desert you. One light bulb says to the other, I love you watts and watts.
Aww, that's cute.
I know. But we need to be a little lighthearted about it, right? So I want to leave you with a beautiful poem. It is by Elizabeth Barrett Browning's. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight. For the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood faith. I love thee with a love I seemed to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall but love you better after death. So this beautiful poem covers it all, doesn't it? Because it also points to the fact that love does not end at the time that we call transition or death. And as spiritualists, we are so blessed to know and experience the connections with those on spirit side. And while we may miss them terribly, their physical presence, the love still is sent back and forth. You know, they say, oh, what's that saying? Shrouds have no pockets. That means you cannot take your material stuff with you. You know, the only thing that we get to take with us is the love and the lessons we learned through all the facets of loving. So I invite you, let your heart be soft and in beautiful colors. Let your heart be lovable. Soften if it's hard like that. Let it soften. Look at the life again through the rosy colors of saying, I love life. I love all that has been given to me. And above all, celebrate yourself. Because God loves you so much that she created you. And with that, I say, Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy